Okay, so I'm going to try and go through this real fast. I know this video is really late. I'm Oliver Ayala. I'm taking CSC 376 with Karen Hart. I received help from Cody Nicholson and I worked with Avery Warwick. So first you're going to have all of your imports, and then you're going to create all of your global variables, a file queue, an app run status, and file info. File info will contain name and size of the file in bytes. Alright, so below that you have get args. This is similar to the first homework. It's basically a repeat of getting command line arguments using getopt. And in this case, we have isServer, which is set to true, and then the address will always be localhost, and there is no host port and no connection port yet. And below that, we will see Python slicing. It takes the second element in the command line argument array, and the first element is the program name, so we ignore that. If it is the host, and the host port is the second element in the opt array, and we'll assign that. If it's not the server, and the port will be used as a connection port and not a host port. If the last option is chosen, then the address will be the second element in the opt array. And then we'll return those arguments down here on line 47. And then in send this file, which has the file socket and the message socket, which takes in the file socket and the message socket, we have this while loop. Well, first we'll look at global active. Global active will be set to true, so that means the app is still running. And below that we have this while loop. While the app is still running, we create a copy of file queue and iterate through that queue. For each file in the queue, we get the file name and size. Then we send this to message socket file information, and we're going to open the file and read the first 1024 bytes. While there is still data, the data that has been read will be sent, and then we will do this entire process again. So we will read 1024 more bytes, and we will send those bytes and keep reading until we reach the end of the file. Then the file is closed, and the file will be removed from the file queue. And I would like to point out that there's this thing right here about hogging the CPU that Cody noticed and put in, that this function should sleep for a little bit so that there's room for other processes on the CPU. And then there's receive this file, where we look at file info, which is the name and the size. We're going to wait for incoming data, and then while the socket is still running, we're going to try and determine how many bytes we have received. A new file is created, and the bits from the original file are written to the new file. And then below, in another while loop, we check to see if we sent as much as we received. If not, we get more data. The data is written, the bytes total is updated until we receive as much as we sent. We will keep repeating this process. Otherwise, close the file and wait for a new one. Locate file uses OSStat to find the file name. If the file exists, and that file will be appended to the file queue. If there is an error, we shall pass. Then below that, we have receive messages, which receive all sorts of messages. While data is being sent, we'll try to find either a exclamation point F, exclamation F, or bang I, or bang M, bang F, or bang I. When we see any of those prefixes, we'll treat the data differently depending on what they are, based on its content, either message, file request, or file information. So we have here this message. Message will be printed. We have this file down here for the F. We have this how this handles the file down in bang F condition, and then in the bang I, it's file info. So we're just going to strip the message of the white space, and then after that we're going to try to keep receiving bytes from message equals m.socket.receive 1024. If there is an OS error, we're going to pass. Alright, file messenger handles files through specified sockets. When the connection port is none, that means that the port is a server port. Below is just the class code of creating the communicator object and binding to any open interface as per usual. And in this else statement is how we handle if it's not the host, if it's a client. We're still going to create a communicator object, and we're going to pass the files over the socket that only handles file transfers. And below that, we have a bunch of threads that are initialized, and then we start these threads. Here we're going to let the user know that they can choose between these options. While lines are being sent in, they shall be read and encoded, then sent over to the message socket. If there is an F instead of an M, then you'll be asked to select a file. That file's name will be read in, and the appropriate prefix will be appended. The file name will then be sent as a message so that it is formatted for file searching. When X is received, everything will shut down and be closed. And here in the main function, we're going to get all of the arguments from the command line to set up a socket. If it's a server, then we can create the communicator object and wait to bind to any available interface. And then we call file messenger with the appropriate arguments. If it's not a server, we can try to connect with localhost over the port number that has been received, and we can begin the file message transfer down here in this last line of the else statement. And there it is. That's it. Thanks for watching. Bye.